Hey Global Village, what's up? Okay, today I want to talk about mainstream media and its apparent about-face when it comes to the narrative in Gaza. Uh, and I thought to do that, I might first take a bit of a digression and use a kind of a personal anecdote, and hopefully that will help me highlight my point. One thing I want to say is, of course, when I create these videos, my approach is to just do it completely contemporaneously, just click record and go, no edits. And because of that, it's not going to be as professional and as streamlined or necessarily quite as coherent as someone who is creating a script and, editing together their video in a more planned out way. But unfortunately, this is just what I've got to go with in terms of the practical side of it, and so it's just what I'm going to continue to do. If I'm going to try and argue any advantage about this particular approach, then it would be authenticity. This is just me just speaking from my gut. And when I make these videos, a lot of it is because I just feel powerfully motivated to speak out and just share my thoughts, no matter how clumsy. So that's what we're here to do. Right. So I have been a yoga teacher for many, many years, and I've generally speaking just kept it as something I do as a form of moonlighting. I've never wanted to make it, like the major profession in my life, but rather just that thing I do because I'm truly passionate about it, and honestly, I really could care less about the money. Now, the thing is, because I've been doing this for a very long time, I ended up getting involved with a lot of people, a lot of other yoga teachers, including ones that are full-time teachers who it is their job and how they earn a living doing it, which is something I've always just wanted to resist. And when this genocide happened, something very interesting occurred that I really couldn't help but notice, which is that the vast majority of yoga teachers that I know were deathly silent when it came to criticizing what Israel did. They just would rather pretend it wasn't happening and just talk about, love and butterflies and people being really nice to each other without offering any actual criticism about what was actually happening in the world that we live in. Now, why was that happening? Well, at the end of the day, these people are protecting their commercial well-being, their financial well-being. And the fear is that, are they to come out and just start actually openly criticizing what Israel are doing? They will, of course, be accused by some people of being anti-Semitic, of being unfaithful to the whole spirit of what it means to be a yoga teacher, when personally I think the reverse is true. But nonetheless, they're going to lose a portion of their their participants. People are going to protest and leave them, and for some people, could be quite damaging to their financial well-being. So I want to be a bit careful about just putting them on full blast. But for me, fortunately, because yoga has always been just my passion, and that, quite frankly, a big part of that is being an ethical and moral person, I simply could not stay quiet. And indeed, when it comes to teaching my own classes, I have spoken openly and honestly to my participants about my shock and horror about what is happening to the people in Gaza, and how we have to do whatever we can to stand up and fight for these people because our governments aren't willing to do it. Now, how do I flip that to what's happening with mainstream media? Well, it's kind of, in a way, a similar thing. Mainstream media is primarily interested in protecting its own financial well-being. I mean, it is capitalism in action. Now, unfortunately, mainstream media, for decades now, has not been about neutrally reporting the news with a commitment to the facts. Mainstream media has become divided through partisanship, where particular channels become ideologically captured to either the left or the right, and then their whole purpose is to preach to the choir and tell their constituents what they want to hear. So this is no longer news. Now, when it comes to Palestine and Gaza, the problem became an issue with both the left and the right, because Zionism is, by its nature, infused into both spheres of the political spectrum. It has taken financial and geopolitical control over the narrative, such that all realms of mainstream media are completely committed to parroting Zionist propaganda. And that is why, for the last 2 years, we've seen both sides of the spectrum essentially supporting and manufacturing consent for a genocide. And as I said, the narrative seems to have changed, and you have publications like the Daily Mirror in the UK now publishing images of starving children, and organisations like CNN openly condemning and catastrophising what's happening in Gaza and demonstrating moral horror. But all of this is simply like a form of performance art. They've understood that the tides are turning and that it no longer serves their best interests to continue with their old narrative. And so they're flipping the script, and they're just kind of hoping that people won't notice that for the last 2 years they've been utterly complicit with this genocide. But we do notice, and it is for that reason that I simply stopped listening to mainstream media. Like, I can't stomach it. It turns my stomach. I don't even know what's happening here in New Zealand anymore because I just don't listen to it at all. They just don't deserve my time, my focus, my attention. And again, I just want to point out that what's happening here doesn't mean that they've suddenly found their moral compass. They have not. They're just doing what they think they need to do to maintain their business. And all of a sudden they've realised that the advantages no longer outweigh the disadvantages of supporting the genocidal entity face on. So they're probably, in a way, still going to do it, just more obliquely, while at the same time hand-wringing about the fact that people are starving to death on the streets of Gaza. Anyway, Bendy out.